Welcome back to the Boys in Motion podcast, where we're talking big things endurance as per usual, community events, and pushing your limits one step at a time. I'm Tyler, here with Andrew, and today we've got some really exciting news and a nice guest joining us. A local Ottawa ultra runner, community builder and ambassador, and most recently crowned as the Burrito League Ottawa Champion, Dennis Kim.
This is going to be a fun one. You all are in for a treat. Dennis has made a big impact on the Ottawa running scene, and he's not just putting those miles in, he's bringing that community closer together and making sure that each runner knows their why of why they're doing left foot, right foot.
Exactly. And I think this is going to be a really good and important conversation for anyone in endurance sports because it's not just how fast or far you go, but it's why you do it. And Dennis is the perfect reason for this.
So today we're going to dive into Dennis's story, how he got into endurance sport, what's motivating him right now, and how he's helping build something super special in Ottawa.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, let's get into it. Dennis, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us and taking the time to chat with the Boys in Motion.
Thanks for having me.
We'll start off just like we do with all the interviewees we've been having, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, I guess, where you grew up, how you got into endurance sports.
So I guess my origin story is I'm from BC originally, in the valley in BC. That's where I grew up, spent most of my time, and spent most of my time up in the mountains just hiking. And just I love the outdoors, and from lots of hiking and backpacking and like doing backpack trips, I ended up like guiding men as well on group trips up in the backcountry, up in Squamish Whistler. So did that for about 3-4 years. And then on a lot of my trips, I would see people run past me. And I was like, where are you guys going? It's where you're camping up at the summit. We're going to tag and then go back to our cars and go have a meal and sleep in my own bed. I was like, damn, that sounds really nice. So I was like, what are you guys doing? You just run? And they're like, yeah, we're just trail running. So I started getting into looking into trail running and what that meant and just started trying it out myself. And then pretty much all the hikes and the summits that I would peak in BC, I would just like start trail running them. And just that kind of,
That's sick.
that's how it started. Yeah.
And what was that, as you're learning about trail running, what was that first race that you did and signed up for to dip the toe into the official trail racing world?
Wow, first race. I dabbled with a bunch of road races. Like I did a 5K, a 10K. I ran a couple half marathons, and then I realized, okay, the road is not for me, and so the trail was much more appealing. I think it was one of Gary Robbins' races. He does Coast Mountain Trail Series out in BC. Very well-known ultra runner, and I think I did one of his races as an intro to trail running, and I believe I DNF'd that race. Went out way too hard and was gassed, and then had to have a medic take me off the mountain.
Jeez,
Not the way that I anticipated. Yeah.
Gee, we're starting off this pod spicy right at the beginning of DNF.
That's wild.
First race, first trail race, first DNF. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the roller coaster of trail racing. And I'm just starting to dip my toe into trail racing. And I guess Andrew, the only road man, has been starting to do some trail stuff as well. So it seems pretty appealing.
It does. I think like the biggest thing is the why, and I think that's always something that stuck for me is like, why am I doing this? If I don't like riding on the road, like why should I race on the road? And so the trail really drew to me, and I love spending time in the outdoors, so that's what drew me. And it was like a lot of the shorter intro distances that I started off with, and I never imagined I would dabble into ultras. And here I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I guess like you alluded to there, you started at the lower kind of distances and then you just kept going higher and higher, like a ladder, you'd say?
Yeah, and so it was started doing longer races and doing mid distance trail races, and then it wasn't actually until I moved to Ottawa I met one of my like coworkers now and a good friend of mine who He's been doing ultras since he was in his 20s, and he's now in his 60s and still running ultras. He noticed a hat that I was wearing when I came into the store, and he was like, "Hey, I know that hat. That's a race in Whistler in BC." And I was like, "How do you know about this race?" He's, "Oh, I'm an ultra runner." I was like, "It's like, who are you?" And then he convinced me that, "Oh, you should try ultras." And he took me under his wing, and we would go on runs together and we'd train. He'd kind of give me an understanding of what a training block looked like for ultras. And then he was my first ultra that I tried. So I haven't been running ultras for long, but yeah, I just got hooked.
Nice. Yeah, I do. I saw that you're easing after the big Burrito League January. I saw you're easing back into a block, and like from Tyler and I are a lot more road stuff. Tyler gonna be doing more trail stuff, but like what from like more of those shorter distances to ultras, what is the difference in training and how do you structure something like that?
There's a lot that goes behind it. One set template works for everybody, and I think that we're all different people, we're all different individuals. Our thresholds are going to be different, and how we train will be different. So I think it's a lot of experimenting. Last year, I had a coach for the first time who's a very well known ultra runner in this Ottawa Gatineau region for ultra marathons. So specializing in the 50 to 80K distance, like podium and winning races. Working with him all of last year really helped guide me to know this is what I need to do to structure and be able to be not only like to do these races, but to do them for a long period of time. And for my mentality is I'm not going to just be doing this for this year. I want to be running in my 80s and 90s as long as I can. And how far can I go is one of the things I'm like always wondering about. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I guess, yeah, like you said, and to the listeners, there's a lot going into it, right? Like it's not just your typical road race, let's call it. You're putting in those long runs, you're putting in that speed work. You're also working on hills, you're working on different terrains depending on what you're racing. So it all depends on what your goal is for that season as well.
Exactly. It's the only way that you're going to get it better at all is what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and you got to work on those weaknesses. And with my coach last year, I worked on my weaknesses, which was I hated hill repeats, I hated threshold workouts, the speed work, and doing that the whole last year, like my running has completely changed. And for the shorter stuff, the longer stuff, and essentially because all my races are like on the trail or on mountain terrain, it's a lot of elevation, a lot of climbing, a lot of downhill. You can't just have running legs. You have to build like resilient, like everything, like quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, like a full body so that you're able to withstand like the beating that you're giving it.
Geez, I guess I better start training then.
So speaking of that, what do you have already set in stone for 2026 and what does that race calendar look like for you? What are you training for?
Last year, my goal race was to reach the 50 miler distance, so like an 80-kilometer race. And I prepared my whole year for that. So I had a B race, a C race, all my training was geared toward that. And then from doing that, I actually had pretty good goal, and I achieved that goal, which was a shock for me. And so it made me like really realize that there's so much more that's possible. And I'm probably going to gun for 100K plus distances now. My ultimate goal is I'd love to be on the line for a 200 miler at one point. And the longer I've gone, the races have gone better, essentially. And in the longer stuff, you have more time to problem solve, to work out, oh, I'm bonking. What do I do about that? How's my nutrition? How's my body feeling? In the shorter distances, you don't have a lot of time to make mistakes. And so the longer you have, the longer you go, you're constantly reassessing. And I find that it just gives me more room for error and it's just more time outdoors. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Just yeah, more time doing the thing that you love doing. But yeah, 200 miler, That's intense. Is there any local to Ottawa 200 milers, or will you have to do some travel for that?
So, like Sinister Sports, who's one of the sponsors for us, they do a 200 miler. They're the only 200-mile race in Canada. So they do one in the Rockies, and they just expanded to like Sault Ste. Marie, the Northern Ontario area. So they've had it for the last 2 years, I believe, there. I'm like being from BC, I'd love to do one in the Rockies. I've spent a lot of time there hiking and running. And so I think if I were to do one, Shep was like bugging me or inching me to try to do the 200 with
That's
my
wild.
race entry that I got. I don't know about that. Maybe not yet.
Yeah, maybe ask him. Let's win. You could win Burrito League 2027 and do it next year.
Who knows? Anything's possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wild. And like having no idea of what that kind of event is, do you sleep or anything during it? Do you take like small naps at aid stations, or do you try to just push through as much as you can?
I know this might sound crazy, but the 200-mile distance is quite competitive now. Jamil has a lot with the Air Vipa, with Cocodona. There's a lot more 200 races coming up on the circuit, and people are running 200 milers like they're running 100-mile races. It's insane that people can push for so long, and it's just going to expand. There's 300-mile races coming up now, and people are working on let's do a 500-mile race, and
It's
there's no
wild.
limit anymore. There's no limit anymore because people are just crushing these distances, and it's just. But yeah, to go to your question, Andrew, there's like strategies around 200 milers now. You sleep 3 or 4 times, and you do 40 to 50-minute like power naps, and you spread them out as much as possible. And there's like a strategy that like there's a lot of YouTube documentaries on the 200-mile race distance, and the they're just sharing their tips and their insight on how do you do this well. And it's like not a known secret anymore, and it's crazy to see where the sport's going.
Yeah, it feels like it's starting to become an art, just like any other distance. And like I've seen also, like you're saying, clips of Courtney power napping, like literally 3 minute nap, and then getting up and she's ready to go. This is crazy stuff, but I guess that's what it takes to get to that next level.
Yeah, it was funny. I was just re-listening to a podcast with her, with Cameron Haynes, how during one of the 200 milers, she was out and she's like, "Hey, don't let me sleep for more than a minute, and then wake me up." And literally 30
What?
seconds later, she jumps up and she's like, "How long was that?" And they're like, "You weren't even gone for a minute." And she's, "I felt like that felt like forever. I'm ready to go." And she's just up and running on the trail again. And just, man, it's wild. Yeah.
That's why she's the best.
Yeah, I feel like you could only get yourself into that state by running 100 plus miles to think that 1 minute nap was like, oh, that's everything I need. Like you have to get to a certain place for it to feel like that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Have you, just from this conversation, it seems like a backyard ultra would potentially be super up your alley, considering you're just like the longer the better. Is that something you've ever considered?
Yeah, so I've done a backyard ultra here in the region. I was a couple of years ago. It's called Big Wolf's Backyard. So
In
they do
Gatineau?
a bunch. Yeah, I was in Gatineau in Val I did that, and I don't know, the aid station being every so many kilometers and just like doing repeats, and just often my training in Gatineau Park, which is where I do a lot of my running, is literally on a repeat of a 6 kilometer trail. And I'm just doing repeats up to the top of the hill where there's a tree. I tap the tree and I'm back down doing repeats. And oftentimes people will see me pass them multiple times. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, "I'm just running repeats." They're like, "Why?" I was like, "Training. This is what I do." And for others, they don't like that repetition or like that habit or routine, but I think it builds mental resiliency, which is, I think, very key and important in ultras. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, I like how you mentioned that because you were alluding to some of those feelings you were having of while we were doing the burrito runs as well. It's very similarly, but actually even smaller, of course, with the 500-meter loop. But you can't only train your legs, you got to train that mental resiliency and toughness as well. Like you're going to be out there for hours on end, most of the times with your own thoughts, and you just got to get through them, and you got to get through them with the training too.
Yeah, Andrew, you guys know about this in Toronto. Some of the days we were out, we had the coldest temps in all of North America. And if you can run in 20-degree weather, and for us, we were in minus like 20, like even colder, it's just, there's no excuse. And so I think if you really want it, I think anything's possible. And for me, like most people are like, why would you run in minus 35 with the polar vortex? And it's why not? If I can do that, I can do anything.
I love it. Yeah, some of those pictures that you were posting during some of your burrito loops were epic. Just the like icicles and like fully bundled, because I know I was freezing and I knew you guys were 5 to 10 degrees colder on any given day, which was crazy.
Actually, I actually like it colder than warmer. Like I don't do well in heat and humidity, so I think I was lucky compared to other people in a way, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that was seriously epic. That was good.
Yeah, I would love to. You talked about the mentality and how you're like colder the better and just building that mental side. I would love to hear like maybe some ultra stories of, because I know when I was doing the final day, people kept asking me like, if you hallucinate during this or if you go to crazy places, I need to hear about it. I want to know the crazy stories. You're doing a 24-hour day. I would love to hear like some of your craziest like lows or like moments in an ultra.
Oh man. Wow. I would say for me, like everyone has like their weakness, and for me, I would say I have a pretty sensitive stomach, and generally what's done it for me the longer I go is my stomach will be upset, or I won't be able to take down food, or like you need to have your calories, otherwise you're stuck. And it's for me to it's funny, a bunch of my friends, we always talk about this, is ultras are not about running, really. It's an eating contest. And so if you're able to out eat the next person and get those calories in, you're just set up for success. And so I'm a big foodie. Like I love food. I love all types of food. When I'm running, I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat after, what I'm going to eat during. And so some of my worst bonks is like where I'm not able to eat at all in a race. And I think one time I was doing a 12-hour race last year, and essentially I got back to the aid station. It was a loop system. And then when I got back, and then I just looked wrecked. And I knew the race director's wife, and she like looked at me, and then she's, "Are you done?" I'm like, "No, I'm not done. I gotta go more." And then she's, "I have exactly what you need." And she picked up this big gallon of like maple syrup from Quebec. I don't know where she just had it hidden away, and then she pulled out this big gallon of maple syrup, and she just put her head back, and I was like, okay. And I
No
tilted my head
way.
back, and she just started pouring this maple syrup down my throat. And I took it in, and then I sat down for like a few seconds, and then it just hit me, and I'm like, I'm ready. And I was like, and I just charged out of there like nothing. And it was just sometimes it's the littlest things that just like really pick you up. I haven't had the pleasure of hallucinating yet. I'm sure I've seen things that I want to see, like food or just a bathroom when I really needed to use one and I couldn't. But I've definitely had a lot of low points in races. And I think when you hit those lows and you're able to come back from them, it really shows to you that like how you can problem solve and figure things out. And there's no set way to do ultras. No set, you do this and you'll get this result. And I think figuring out what works well for you and what doesn't, that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think I'm also wondering, like you said, you've been doing some ultras and then you've just tackled that 50-miler distance. And in those distances, like, do you see or can you see who is more, let's call it experienced in the sport, has everything down pat? And do you see those maybe a little bit more nervous people or people who don't really know how to proceed with things? And it's a journey, right? It's a race, but it's also a journey, and every race you learn no matter the distance. But have you felt that you could see that difference between the experienced people?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can tell for sure at a race at the start line who's done this before and who's like newer. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people, a lot of mentors. who've taken me under their wing and really guided and showed me the way of what's worked well for them. And I've been really fortunate, and just it's great to see the sport in that sense of like very community focus of like really helping people out who are wanting to get into it for, I think, for the right reasons. I definitely know, I guess, since COVID, the whole run thing, biking, triathlons, ultra marathons, they've just boomed. And everyone all of a sudden was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do an Ironman. I want to do an ultra. And it's like, why? It's because everybody's doing them. And so you get this wide range in the sport right now of a lot of like new people to the sport, a lot of people intermediate, and then the people who've been doing it for a long time. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I know like that at the beginning how you were like the curiosity and the wanting to go outside and seeing those runners when you were hiking. Has your why, like gaining experience in the sport, has your why shifted at all, or has it stayed true to that kind of just adventure mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think people always ask me like their opinions about the sport of those, especially people who are trying to get into it, and they're like, hey, should I do this race or should I do that race? And I can give my input, but I always ask them like, what do you want from this? What do you want out of this? And I think I learned very early on about the why of if the why for you is so strong that you'll do anything to get there, you're going to have a hunger that's no other. And like last year, I wanted the 50 miler distance so bad. Like it was just, I wanted it bad. And I was racing and running like I wanted it. And it was just, I was even beating my own best splits for aid stations that I had predicted. And again, I think Tyler, you witnessed this too, is like I only get stronger as the race goes on. And that's not majority the case for most people. I start really slow, I pace well, and then I just get faster and faster as I go. And I think Tyler and I were like late into the day, and I think I was around like kilometer 35, 37. And I think Tyler, you're probably like 30-ish, I think, at that point. And then
Yeah, it was about
you're
5 to
just,
10.
yeah. And then I think you made a comment, you're like, you're just getting faster. What's going on? And I'm just like, I want this. I want this. And so it's just, I think, again, going that why of if you want to go to UTMB, that's great. And if you're putting all your energy into those big races and that's what you want to do, that's great. For me, the biggest thing has to come back to I want to spend time outdoors, take in the outdoors, and see what I can do and how much I can push. And if that involves the community and other people to join with me, that's great. If it's me being solo, I don't mind that either. That's what drives me to do it. And just, I've been able to see and do things that I thought were impossible. I'm a very competitive person, so I want to see how far I can push that envelope.
I was originally planning to save this question for closer to the end, but I think this tees it up. Is in general here, like we love trying to do crazy hard things, doing it together and seeing like how much we can get out of ourselves. I would love to know like what that big, scary, next impossible goal that's like on your mind that maybe you're like potentially scared to say out loud, because we think that if you put it out there, you talk about it, it's more likely to happen. And I would love to know if there's something right now that's like on your mind that fits that.
Yeah, this year, I think going back to an early question that you said, I really want to tackle the 100 plus K distance. Excuse me. Now I do a lot of my training in Gatineau Park. So last year, the FKT, so the fastest known time, I pretty much know all the current leaders who have taken over FKTs in the area, all within the last year. And it's pretty cool to say that, hey, I know the FKT holder for this route. And
That's sweet.
yeah, it's super crazy. Like the sport's just developing so fast. And so my coach the supported FKT, and then that got taken down, and then he went for the unsupported. And so anyways, it's a Gatineau perimeter loop. So it's a
Is that
loop
the
that
100?
it's 114 kilometers around Gatineau Park. with about 3,000 meters of elevation, and it starts from the visitor center in Chelsea and loops to the lower part of the park, goes up and through the escarpments, and it loops up to the northern part of the park out to Wakefield area, and then back down through the park around Fortune and back. It's something that I've known about for a long time. Now, knowing people who've got the fastest times on it, it's something that I'm just like, is this possible? Could I do that? And I'm gonna make a good day of it and make a go of it this year. So that's one thing more immediate, but the 200 miler is like really appealing. Yeah, like spending 4 or 5 days out, just like, yeah. Some people are just like, that does not sound ideal at all. But for
That's an
me, I
adventure.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a true adventure. And there's so many people like Pelche, who's like a YouTuber and does tons of documentaries. I've I've bumped into him when I used to run up in the North Shore in BC, and so he's a well-known runner. And just there's so many documentaries out there, and just people who I have looked up to in the community, and just seeing what they're able to do. And I'm not going to win races, but I can at least get out there and try to push myself to see what's possible.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's, you said a lot of things there that are amazing. Another funny thing is we got a couple FKT holders here on the call. Andrew actually did a few
Yeah.
efforts in Toronto. Not that far of a distance, but I mean,
Yeah,
very impressive.
baby. The longest was 75 kilometers, but and much less elevation.
It's still 75 kilometers. Yeah, that's
And it's
awesome.
interesting in Toronto because you like, I think that strategy, obviously Andrew, you did it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that strategy evolved around picking the right time to go out because you have to deal with street lights and making sure the crossings are okay. And you did it in the winter, so it was a strategy to say the least. But yeah, FKT, that we did have an episode on FKTs too, so that's pretty fun that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely on my radar this year too, is trying to, especially around races or right after, to keep motivation between those main events, is to do FKTs. But I was talking to Paul, who was the Burrito League Toronto winner, absolute animal, and he was talking about some of the FKTs that I've done. So I'm scared that they're going to be taken. So
You know what? It's funny because people are just like, no, there's like talk of like, I don't want people taking down my FKT and this and that. And just, I think for the sport in itself, the whole point is we're trying to push and motivate each other. Like, no matter what we're doing, if someone takes down your FKT, you have two choices. You can be like, that's awesome. I'm not going to beat that again. Or it's going to drive me to go out and beat it again or try harder. And it's just, you can think about anything two ways, and what you choose to do and decide to do. What's the worst case? You fail. That's the worst thing that could happen.
and you like got out there, had a fun adventure, or yeah. So yeah, it's really not too bad.
And you have a story out of it, yeah. So it feels like, Dennis, too, you bring this aspect to life, I could imagine, right? Like you're fully involved within the community, fully involved in the ultra running and running scene. So you probably take the same mindset to your everyday dealings.
It's something that I never knew that I would fall in love with as much as I have. And just there's not many things that I do that I like enjoy as much as I do just like running. And people are like that day that it was minus 35, they're like, did you actually enjoy it? I was like, yeah, I love that solitude. I think Tyler, you and I talked about, you don't like running at night. I love running at night in the dark, and just no one can see me. I don't see anyone else. I'm just I'm just there, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And that's all I'm thinking about the whole time. And it's once you discover the beauty of running and what it means for you, that's, I wish that for everyone. When you get that, it's like nothing else.
Yeah, I love it. And I, as a fellow nighttime runner, I totally understand. I like, because of obligations or like things, I sometimes I'm like I should switch to the morning because it makes it easier for scheduling. But something about that nighttime running, it's just it gets starts getting quiet, it gets dark, and yeah, you're out there by yourself. It's really nice.
You start asking yourself those questions like, why am I out here? Why am I the only one out here? Am I doing something wrong? And all these voices get in your head, but then you really realize you have to pick and choose. It's when you're training, you have other things, you have other obligations, you have life, you have work, you have family, friends, all those things. And I know a lot of people who are just like, oh, I want to run a marathon or I want to run ultra. And they're like, they only run once or twice a week. And I'm like, why aren't you running more? And they said, I don't have the time or I can't make the time. But if you really love something, you will make the time for it. And there's times where I would run before work. I'd run on lunch break. I'd run after work. You just have to fit the mileage in somewhere and you just have to make it happen. Yeah.
You got to prioritize it at that point. And you got to, like you were saying earlier, you got to want it as well.
Yeah, I really like that. Like you can do anything you want. You can't do everything, but you can do anything. And yeah, if running and you have that strong why, I feel like it becomes so easy to carve out that time. Sometimes, yeah, you only have 30 minutes. If you really want it, like you've been saying, it feels like you need to. Like the rest of your day sometimes feels like it's falling apart if you don't get that quiet time to just go out there and hit the pavement or the trails. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think you brought up like a good point, Andrew, which is like a lot of people ask me like, why do you do this? Like my family, my wife's family, they all like they're just like you just run all the time. You know, what drives you? Why do you do this? And I have a lot of nieces and nephews and they always ask me like, "What, uncle, why do you run that far? And like, why are you doing these things?" And I was just like, I think for the next generation as well, of just the world's a messed up place. There's so much going on. If I could do this, run a long distance, do an ultra, I can do anything. And I've met so many people along my journey who've like battled cancer, who canceled multiple times. There's so many stories of people who've had such devastating things happen to them, and through that they're still able to push and live life. And that's so inspiring for me. And like I always think about like how can I inspire the next person or someone. And like for me, it's if I can run long distance, I can do whatever life throws at me, and you can as well. There's no limit. And I want, especially for my nieces and nephews and family and friends, to know that if you want to do something, you can do it. You just have to put your mind and your heart into it, and anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. You literally said it perfectly. I think that's the definition of, what we're all trying to do here is create community, create joy around running and show that anything is possible if you set your mind to it. And there's a big community around it as well, right? Like you're never alone no matter what you do. And I think the cool thing is when you're meeting those people, like same thing, I've been dabbling into the Ironmans the past few years, and you always see those insane stories every
Dabbling.
year. Dabbling.
Dabbling.
What did I
Oh yeah,
say?
just dabbling. You're just
Just
doing two
dabbling.
full
Yeah,
Ironmans, 70.3s, dabbling.
just a couple. But yeah, those stories are just crazy to hear. And yeah, I could imagine in the ultra running scene too, everybody comes from anywhere and just their stories are amazing.
I would love to know, just to shift gears a little bit, like you came from BC, came to Ontario. I would love to know like what kind of your opinion, someone that's in a new place or maybe want to get into that running community, like what would be your advice there of how to get ingrained in that running culture wherever they are if they're making a move to a new place?
Like what I did was I looked up the run clubs and just saw where they met, when they would meet, and I just went out to one. And it was the first group that I went out to was I think Mile to Marathon. They were like doing a trail series like every Saturday. And then the three people that kind of headed that up no longer are involved with it, but I really connected with them and they all happen to be ultra, like big into trail and at a very competitive level, and just asked them like what races are out here, who should I get connected with, and then got plugged in with a lot of cool key people right away. I actually met Ray Zahab my first like weekend here. He was in the parking lot at Fortune's with his coffee truck, and
That's
and
awesome.
Ray Zahab's a good buddy of mine now, and just who would have thought that I'd become friends with him and get like insight and inspiration from him. And just I think anything's possible. You just have to really want it and reach it. And like for me, coming to a new place, I wanted to meet other like-minded people who enjoy the outdoors, enjoyed running, and The run clubs are like amazing out here. It's really about community and not really about running sometimes, which is not a bad thing at all. And I would say get connected, do the research as well. I would look up local ultra runners in Ottawa, Gatineau, and just I would send them a DM or try to meet them at a race and just chat with them and just it's yeah, most of my friends that I've met are just people who are involved in the community and I just reached out to them and or I met them at a race or I met them on the trail and you never know the connection that would make or what would happen. Like Tyler, you and I, like we never knew this would happen. We never knew the connections we had from Burrito, and we're talking about a lot of things up and coming and in the future, and just we don't know what's to come of it. And just to maximize every opportunity that you get, I've been so with the connections that I've made in my short time of being here in Ottawa. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like you said, we met through just such a, let's call it random pop up grassroots event, of course, and it blew up. And now one thing leads to another. And a lot of things can happen from some of these meetings. And you keep referring to community. Of course, we're all involved in the community, and that's what we're trying to build here. Can you just speak a little bit, of course, about some of your partnerships you've been currently involved with within the community and within the Ottawa region?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I work for Brishtaka, which is a local outdoor store here in Ottawa. And so that kind of opened up my door to a lot of connections in regards to like brands and whatnot. I've been drinking is Athletic Brewery, an alcoholic beer. I am one of the ambassadors for them.
The
I,
best.
I enjoy a beer from time to time again. As an athlete, it does have its consequences of like recovery, performance, all those things. And it's really great that there's a non-alcoholic option to still enjoy the taste of beer, but not have like the consequences or the effects of alcohol. And so that's been a great partnership that I've had. And again, loved the product and kind of reached out to them and it just happened. And just another one is Exact Nutrition. I'll say this as well before I talk more about it is just from like people that I've met in the industry and other athletes, never sell yourself or sell yourself in the sense of just like to lose yourself, to go with a brand that doesn't do exactly what you want or something you don't believe in. And so I've been always in the mindset like, even if I'm given free stuff, if I don't really believe in a brand or a product, I'm not going to really get on board. And an example is I've been approached by some like shoe brands to be like, hey, would you want to be an ambassador or an athlete with us? And I'm just like, I don't use your products. So I'm gonna have to decline. And people are just like, what are you doing? You'll get free shoes. That's not who I am. And so Exact Nutrition is a local nutrition company based out of Montreal. I've met the founders. I know most of the staff and the employees there. I was with another brand before for nutrition and then wanted to be with Exact from the get-go and met the rep and told him like, yeah, I've wanted to be with you guys, but you guys are full. And he's actually, we just lost some ambassadors. So do you want to come on board? And it's sure. And it just happened out of nowhere. So I've been with them and again, local small business company and just really believes in their product and just a community mindset in regards to the product and just like the run community. And I'm involved with them from like events, races, activations, excuse me, testing new product. So R&D and things like that, giving input on future products. There's a lot of new stuff coming out with them over the next year, which will be exciting to see. But it's been a great partnership. I have friends who are also on the ambassadorship team with them as well. And so it's just nothing's really changed, honestly. Like I'm still doing what I would be doing without it. But it's always great having the support for like my projects and for races and for anything essentially.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I guess, of course, as our listeners know, Exact also supported us as a key sponsorship with our Burrito League event. And it was nothing but great stuff. Like you obviously you were aware, you were part of the run and also some of the the giveaways that we were giving out during the runs. But I met most of the team here in Ottawa. Everybody's super active, super great team. And it's funny you say that. Like when I actually didn't hear about Exact when I first started running 2022, 2023, but I remembered from Ottawa race weekend I associated exact with your face and Stefan's face at the races. I always see you guys dressed up in the X, like the logo on your hat, and you guys are giving away those bars. So I always associated exact to you guys. It was funny. And the banana costume.
Oh yeah, Steven. He's quite the character.
Tyler, what do you think? Do you think we should ask some of our fun rapid fire questions? Some of our silly fun questions?
Yeah, we always do that rapid fire with our guests here. So get ready.
So
Bring it on.
to kick it off, I would love to hear your top pro for the Vancouver running scene and your top pro for the Ottawa running scene.
I think I'll take it this way. Like people always ask me like, "Oh, like why'd you leave Vancouver and BC and you come to Ottawa and things like that?" And I take it in the same way that I've realized like it was a bit of a struggle the first couple years moving, and just you can never compare two places or any two places really. And I think Vancouver definitely has what it has. Like why I love it is like you have the mountains and then you have the ocean, and there's not many places where you can be up in the mountains in the backcountry in the snow skiing and then hit the beach the same day. And so the ability to do multi-sport, even not even different season kind of thing as well, is like very rare. Like you can't really do that in many places. And so I think that's what I miss about the West Coast is like skiing up in the backcountry and hitting the beach and like being in the water the same day. Yeah, I really miss that. I with Ottawa and the scene like Ottawa Gatineau is I'm blown away with how many elite level like athletes that are in this region, like former Olympians, like former Cup champions and whatnot, and they're just you see them running on the trail or you see them skiing in the park, and they're they're just like everywhere, and they're very humble about it. And I've had a mixture of I've met pros and whatnot, and you always get two sides of things sometimes, and where they're really down to earth, humble, and just they'll have a full on conversation for you with you. Just something that I remembered is I met Christian Meyer, who's a Canadian cyclist who's like living in Girona in Spain, and I met him in Spain, and he sat down with me and we had a coffee together, and I was like, "Who are you? You're like this pro level cyclist now turned ultra runner." And like you're having a coffee and sitting down with me, you want to know how I'm doing. And then I've met the flip side of things where I'm a pro, they're better than anyone. And so I think kind of go back to your question is I've been really blessed by meeting some like world-class athletes here in this region, and have just given me insider tips on things or suggestions or welcomed me into the community, which is really cool to see, because that's the only way the sport's going to grow and get better is by including everyone and not having the separation of like pros and not pros and things like that, but just like everyone having this mentality of get outside and we all want the same thing. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Andrew? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. That was, yeah, great answer. Love it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I guess I do agree with Ottawa. Yeah, you never know who you're going to see either on the bike path or in the trails. Yeah, it's fun. I got another one for you, a quick one at least here. Favorite race ran to date?
Favorite race that I ran to date. Oh man.
Lots to think about, I can imagine.
Yeah, I've had a lot of really good race experiences. I've also picked like really big races for my first distances in ultras, and people are like, "You picked that race as your first like ultra in that distance?" I was, yeah, why not? If I can do the hardest one, then the rest are going to be like easier. I'm going to just share a little bit of, I guess, a couple of the races. QMT, like Quebec Mega Trail, is one of the biggest races in the region. And for ultra running, it's a really good race for intermediate and the pros because they have something for everyone. And the volunteers and the staff really create that experience that you just feel like you belong. And I've been at that race a couple times now, and I'm just blown away by how well run it is for how big of an event as well. Nakrtalk, the Enduro, which is the 12-hour race I was talking about, it happens in May of every year. I know the race directors. It's just so fun. The volunteers really make it a good experience. And then Bromont last year was just great. I've been really lucky. I haven't had really bad, don't want to jinx myself. I haven't really had a bad ultra race in my short ultra career span. Like they've all gone pretty well, and I've had really good experiences.
Oh no, that's good to
Nice.
hear. I guess
Yeah,
I've
knock
heard
on
good
wood.
things. I've heard good things about QMT and Bromont as well. Yeah, good to know. And those will be hopefully in my sights one day too. We'll get to those eventually, I think.
And next up, and I think maybe we'll close on this one for the questions, but this is one that I know you'll have probably lots of opinions on and are quite knowledgeable about. But what would you say is your current favorite shoe on the market, whether it's a road or a trail shoe? Or maybe one of each, actually.
Ooh, I'm a big gearhead. I have a lot of shoes, a lot of shoes.
I put this one in here. I wanted to hear it.
Generally, for me, if I really like a shoe, I'm buying like a second pair, a third pair, a fourth, a fifth pair. I'm stocking up. And so if I think about shoes that I've really enjoyed well, okay, so for the roadside, I think the Brooks Glycerin Max was really a shocker for me. I never anticipated that I would like a high stacked cushion shoe. And then I put it on and it was so plush and just, it didn't feel like how it looked. And it was like my daily trainer, it was my speed workout. I did everything in that shoe and gone through 4 or 5 pairs of those. So I've really enjoyed that pair for the road. Something that I would think would be really cool is I know they're the sponsors for Burrito League in the States. Mounted Coast has been on my radar for a long time. I've been DMing them and bugging them a lot, but that's something that I would like. Their stuff is really cool. I'd like to get my hands on to try that out for sure. And on the trail side, the Sportiva Prodigio Pros is my race shoe. That's like my go-to. It's the most mileage I've run on. It's all my big races in the ultra distance have been in those shoes. I did all of Burrito League in them as well. They're my winter runner. Yeah, I love them. And they actually La Sportiva actually sent me a couple more pairs for this year for me to use as well. So super excited for that. There's a lot of shoes that I'm excited about too, like up and coming. I have a bunch of Nordas. Nordas, the 055, they're like race ultra shoe that's coming out in June. Can't wait to get my hand on those as well. Yeah, and these super shoes for trail are just popping off like crazy for this year. So I'm excited to see those hit the market. And for me as a trail ultra guy, I'm really excited.
You put trail and super shoe together, count me in. I'm in. And the Nordas in general, they look very nice. So yeah, that'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, I've been seeing lots of people with, I'd never heard of Norda. And just in the last few months, I just keep seeing the 005s just pop up on people's Strava on their runs. So it seems like they're getting pretty popular.
Yeah, Montreal-based company, and just they really blew up, especially in the Ottawa Gatineau region. Anyone who runs trail has at least one pair.
Nice, love it. Some good picks.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. I wanted to keep it under an hour for our folks. So thank you so much, Dennis, for coming out here and talking to us, sharing us your wisdom, your ultra stories, and of course, all your experiences with us. And for everyone, for everything that you're doing with the community too. It's awesome to see you out there in Ottawa Gatineau region. And of course, hopefully we can work together soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for what you do here with the podcast and everything and things in the community. And I know you guys have a lot of up and coming things, hopefully in the future, and a lot of collabs, hopefully that we can work out together. But it's exciting because it just gives more opportunity for people to get involved. And we talked about a lot of different things like race formats and whatnot, like the Backyard Ultra, the Burrito League now, which might become a more regular thing. I think more ways to get people outside and running in fun, unique ways. I think it's just going to be better.
100%.
Nice, love it. Yeah, it was great meeting you. Great to meet the burrito legend himself, the King of Ottawa. And you definitely gave me lots of different perspectives and philosophies that I'll be thinking about. And hopefully when I make my way out to Ottawa, we can share some time on trail and continue the conversation.
I'd love to have you out here. Let me know anytime.
Wow, what a treat. I hope that everyone listening got just a little bit of motivation, and maybe you start asking yourself what that why of running is. I know that over this next week, I'm going to be reflecting on it quite a bit. So whether you're training for your first 5K or you're dipping your toe into the world of ultra, just remember how powerful community can be in this sport.
Exactly. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the podcast, share it with some friends or your training partners, and come join us on Instagram, Strava, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you, guys.
That's right. And quick reminder, especially since Dennis was talking about doing a 200-mile race, we are not medical professionals, so always consult a qualified expert before you make any major changes to your training or big jumps up in distance.
Exactly. Keep showing up, keep putting in that work, and we'll see you on the start line of your next ultra.